Hey, what's going on Facebook? Happy Monday to you. Hope you're doing awesome. Listen, I have to come on here live because I just thought it was awesome. All the responses I got from my question this morning to parents over 40 and asking the question, what's the best parenting tip you ever heard that actually works with your kids? And I'm sure you're doing an amazing job surviving being a parent. I mean, sometimes it's about survival, right? So I wanted to share with you actually what's worked for me, and I want to see, it may help you, it may not. Take it for what it's worth. But I had to come on here to acknowledge so many awesome responses. From not being a perfectionist, Kristen, to Vicky, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, apologizing, Shanna. Let's see, what are the other ones? Consistency, yes, that's awesome. It's okay to say no. The good old belt. Ooh, I remember the belt. Anyway, lots of great things on here. And I would have to share with you, one of the biggest things for me is just helping understand how my kids work. Really, like the biggest thing, the biggest tip that I can share with you is knowing my kids, right? And if you're a parent and you have 1, 2, 3 or more kids, you probably are learning, if you haven't figured out what is best, because they're your kids, right? So I would say first and foremost, the best parenting tip I can share with you is what's going to be best for your kid might not be best for someone else's. That's not necessarily a tip, this little side note. And I wanted to share with you a few other things. And you're asking yourself, well, why is it coming on here? Well, I'm not a psychologist or a parenting guru or anything like that. But I will say that in my business world where I work with clients, I coach busy moms and dads over 40, and they're trying to get on a healthier path. And a lot of times the parenting is a challenge, right? It becomes a challenge. Life gets in the way. There's things that get in the way. And I think it's really hard as parents trying to focus on their own health to try to do that and to try to be a really good parent and to try to discipline and do all those things that you all mentioned in the comments this morning, which is awesome. It gets stressful and then it gets hard because you're so focused on your kids, which is important, right? And their livelihood, but it's also important to take care of you, because if you know, and I've shared this many times with my coaching clients, is the oxygen mask analogy, and that's, you got to make sure you putting oxygen when you're on an airplane, and they say you got to put your oxygen mask on first before you put it on the person next to you, and that person may be your child. Well, let me just share with you, I want to go into this. If you want to know more about what I do, by the way, you can just click the link below. I'm a health and fitness coach, and I specifically work with moms and dads over 40 on that healthier path, but didn't want to spend any time with that. The biggest thing I'm going to share with you, of course, first and foremost, you're going to know your kids better than anyone, right? If you're involved in your kids' lives, and you are since maybe birth, and changing their diapers and feeding them and putting a roof over the head and making dinners and taking them to school and all those things, you're probably going to know better than most. So I would say the first thing I share was you're going to know what's best for your kid, right? And maybe you're like, I don't get it. Well, I can tell you, when our kids were little, we got so many people telling us, oh, you need to do this, and they got to go to this school, and they need to go to bed here, and you need to have the monitor, and you need to use this kind of thing, and these kind of diapers, and blah, 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 all that stuff. And you know what? we figured it out. Was it perfect? Heck no. In fact, it was about survival when our kids were young. And you know what? To some extent, now that our kids are older, it's a little bit about survival now. What's up, Victor? Hey, Mike, Patty, thank you for coming on here. I'm just going to say hello, Amy. You got to hang on because this is going to be really good. And hopefully, if you're all our parents, Sherry, what's going on? Welcome, welcome. So I want to say two things. First off, there's a couple things on here. The comments that you had were so awesome. They're all so good, so rich. And all of those were probably ones that, because I asked the question about the tips that you heard that actually works with your kids. And I bet the ones that work with your kids are the ones that you told yourself, right? The ones that you figured out over time, maybe through going through the gauntlet of parenting. And I've been a parent now for going on 17 years. We have two, 14-year-old and 16-year-old. And I would say it's challenging. But let me get to this, because this is really important. First off, I got to share a little side tip from my grandfather. Here's a side tip from my grandfather, passed it on to my dad, passed it on to me. Now I pass it on to my kids. And it's not necessarily a tip. It's a little phrase. And it works. So just keep this in mind. You might want to write this down, get a pen. This is what my grandfather, and he grew up on a farm, kind of old school. My dad was one of seven. I was fifth generation in the house. But anyway, so it's this. You get what you get and you don't get upset. And you may have heard of that. So there's a good one, a little tidbit, a little side note. But here's getting to the overall point. Most important thing, I believe, and I would say is, and I've worked with tons of parents. In fact, I've served in student ministry for the past 5 years. So I'm around kids on a weekly basis, not just my own, other kids. And I can tell you this is the absolute most important thing. So you need to pay attention to this. The biggest tip I can give that's worked for my kids now, right? And it's something that I've seen, I would say I've observed from other parents. This is not to knock the ones that are maybe doing better in their, parenting skills than others, and we all struggle. It's this. What you do matters. Now, of course, what you say matters, right? And I catch myself saying maybe the wrong thing sometimes, or blowing my stack and having a little temper as a parent, and you're just like, oh, really? I told you to take out the garbage or to clean your room, that sort of stuff. Stop leaving a mess over the house. Help us do the dishes, those types of things. I'm not talking about that. But I want to share this, is that I think this is something and it really relates to all these things here, all these comments, these amazing comments that you took the time to post. And if you've seen this video, go back to my earlier post from about 4 or 5 hours ago and check that out. But here's the deal. You need to know this first and foremost. What you do matters. So again, as kids get into, if you're over 40, chances are your kids maybe are middle high schoolers, maybe they're getting out of high school and so forth. And it's, yes, things they're going to hear you say, but it's the things that you do that really matter. And I'm not saying like do for them all the gifts you give them and presents and trips and things like that, but it's what they observe from you. So let's just take an easy one. I think for teens, you concerned about your teens maybe hanging out with the wrong crowd and maybe doing some of the wrong things. Maybe they're getting involved with the wrong type of people doing, let's just clear the smoke, drugs, alcohol, that kind of stuff. Well, if they see mom and dad are getting lit up and maybe getting hammered on the weekend stuff. And again, this is not to knock it, because I'm not saying you should or shouldn't drink. This is just observing what you do matters. They're watching, they're observing. Don't think that they're not keen in that. And I know what my parents did, and I saw that over the course of my childhood. So that's really the biggest tip I can give to you is your kids are watching. Now, why is that important? Why am I sharing that with you? Well, as a coach, as a health and fitness coach, a lot of times I have clients that come to me that are over 40 that are struggling with their weight. They're trying to lose weight. They're trying to get in better shape. And you know who else are struggling? They're kids. They're either one of two extremes. They've done so much for their kids, to pursuing all of the things to help keep them active and fit. But at the end of the day, they're still looking at mom and dad who are not. And they're observing that. So even if you're paying all the extracurricular activities and all the money for the coaches and the sports and the, after school stuff, if they don't see mom and dad, they're observing that. They're thinking, so, well, it's really just important for me to do it, but not my parents. So just keep that in mind. And I say that because I see where so much time, people say, I ran out of time, I don't have enough time. I don't have any time to take care of myself. I don't have time to cook a meal. I don't have time to go to the gym because I have to take my kid to this practice, and I have to take him out of town here, and I have to take him out of that town there. Well, sooner or later, it's going to where your kids are going to get older, and you're like, well, I'll just wait until my kids are older. Well, do yourself a favor. Don't wait. Your kids want to see you. If you want your kids to be healthy, you don't think that they want you to be healthy. They may not act it now as a teenager, but trust me, they're observing. That's the biggest thing I can share with you is what you do matters almost more than what you say. And I would say, I got teens. I don't remember listening to my parents too much when I was younger. And I can say maybe they're listening to me. But I can say is they're definitely observing, and I can say having teenagers and my wife and I would say this is something that kind of have to bring this up. Hey, Pamela. Hey, Shauna, sorry. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm going to stay on here. You're going to have to stay on here for another minute. So I went away this weekend, and hey, Cheston, what's going on? And my wife and I had a nice weekend. We went and we spent time. Now, they see that we spend time together. They've seen it since they were young. In fact, we did date nights. We've been doing date nights and trips and little getaways and stuff for the last 20 years. And my coach actually made up these bunch of bands. I have a business coach. He made up these bunch of bands, just kind of motivational, inspirational. And I put this one on this weekend. And it was a reminder, and you need to hang on to this. And it says, it's nothing fancy. It says consistency compounds. See that? See, it says consistency on that side all the way around, compounds. Now, a couple of people, I think it was Debbie Brunel and Allison Garcia posted, they shared in the comments about being consistent. This is so true, being consistent. I think that's another really good one, is about being consistent as a parent. But really, here's the thing. Our kids have seen that the time we've been spending together for the past 20 years. Is it perfect? No, we've argued. We have all our moments, right? But we've gone away and we've done that. And again, it doesn't mean you have to go on any fancy trips or anything, but the consistency is there. And that can be related to your discipline, how the time you spend with your kids, of love. At the end of the day, this is really, truly what matters. And what you do matters. It truly, truly does matter. And I can tell you, I've been around enough kids, and I can see the relationships that are broken with their families and their parents and stuff. And, I am around a lot of parents. I coach tons of parents who are trying to get on a healthier pursuit. So think of this. Think if you're pursuing healthy choices, if you're pursuing an active, fit, healthy lifestyle. I'm not saying like some triathlete, just you're pursuing a healthier lifestyle. Do you think the kids are going to probably follow in line in that? Possibly, right? I can just tell you this. It has happened in my house. In fact, my daughter wants to go to the gym with me now. And I don't even know where that's coming from, but it's awesome and I love it. And I would say at the end of the day, the consistency compounds. So, all right, roll this all up into my last comments. The best parenting tip for parents over 40. For me, I have to share with you is what you do matter. So I hope that helps. And thank you so much for all the posts and the comments. I love it. You guys are doing an amazing job. First off, if you're just surviving, that's how most parents are. Even if it looks like they're doing the perfect parenting, trust me, nobody is doing perfect parenting. And I'll be the first to admit that I am not a perfect parent, but I'm going to try to be, just as I am in my relationship with my wife, I want to try to be as consistent as I can, because consistency compounds. And if I do that and the things that I believe matter, my kids are going to see that. And I hope that rubs. I hope, having hope and faith, of course, that's a whole nother story, but that is what truly matters. So anyway, take care. God bless. I hope I didn't wear your ear off, and I hope it helps. We'll see y'all later.